She woke to a pup sleeping on her chest, not knowing the Alpha King sent him to find his true mate. Leora awoke to a cold, damp morning, the mist curling through the trees like pale fingers reaching for her. She stirred, blinking against the soft gray light that filtered through the branches. The forest was quiet, too quiet, but something on her chest made her pause. A small pup, no bigger than a rabbit, slept curled against her heart. Its fur shimmered faintly, silver and soft like moonlight on still water. Its chest rose and fell in gentle rhythm, and its eyes, half closed in sleep, seemed almost too knowing for a creature so small. Leora's hand trembled as she reached to touch it. "Where did you come from?" she whispered. The pup lifted its head slightly, nuzzled her hand, and let out a soft whine as if answering her question without words. Leora had never been alone in the woods before. She lived on the edge of Eldrath, in a small village where the forest was both feared and revered. Stories of spirits, wolves, and cursed kings were passed down like warnings from the past, but she had never believed them until now. The pup seemed different. There was an energy around it that made the hairs on her neck stand on end. It was not an ordinary animal. Leora could feel it in her chest, as if her heartbeat had synchronized with the tiny creature. She carefully lifted it, cradling it like a fragile stone. It pressed closer to her warmth, and for a moment the world seemed to stop. The forest, the mist, the whispering leaves, they all fell away. Only the pup and the quiet of her breath remained. But the silence was broken by a sudden rustling behind her. Leora froze. The forest was full of hidden eyes, predators, and the stories of spirits that would punish those who walked uninvited. Her heart pounded in her chest as she glanced through the mist. Nothing, just shadows among the trees. Leora swallowed and whispered to the pup, "We should go." Now she stood slowly, feeling the earth soft beneath her bare feet. Somehow, she knew that staying would be dangerous, that the forest had shifted in ways she could not yet understand. The pup wagged its tiny tail, then leapt down and ran a few steps ahead. It paused, looking back at her with those strange, bright eyes, and barked softly. Leora's heart raced. The pup was leading her somewhere important. She followed, stepping carefully over roots and rocks, the mist curling around her like smoke. Each step seemed heavier than the last, and yet she felt a pull, a quiet insistence in her bones. It was as if the forest itself guided her forward. Hours passed, or perhaps it was minutes. Time seemed to bend in the mist. Shadows flickered at the edge of her vision, but when she turned, they vanished. Leora's thoughts raced, imagining creatures of old stories, wolves with eyes like fire, spirits that moved unseen, and kings whose curses reached far beyond their stone walls. And then she heard it, a distant howl, low and mournful, echoing across the hills. She froze. The pup's ears twitched and it darted forward, faster this time. The howl came again, closer, filled with longing and pain. Leora's pulse quickened. Her mind screamed that she should turn back, but her heart knew otherwise. There was something calling her deeper into the forest, and the pup was the key. Finally, they came to a clearing. The mist hung low, glowing faintly with an unnatural silver light. In the center, a circle of ancient stones rose from the earth, weathered by time yet still imposing. Symbols, carved into the surface, glimmered faintly, like veins of moonlight. The pup ran to the center, circling the stones, and then sat, staring at Leora with those strange eyes. She felt a shiver run down her spine. The stones hummed, a low vibration that seemed to resonate with her very bones. "What is this place?" she whispered. The pup tilted its head, then barked softly as if urging her forward. Leora stepped into the circle. The moment her feet touched the stones, the mist swirled, thickening, and shapes began to form in the shadows. Figures emerged, tall, dark, and indistinct at first. She gasped and stepped back, clutching the pup to her chest. Then, from the deepest shadows, a voice echoed, soft at first like a whisper carried on the wind, but then stronger, commanding, and full of power. "Leora!" Her heart leapt. The voice was familiar, though she had never heard it before. It vibrated through the stones, through the mist, into her very soul. The pup growled, a deep, resonant sound that seemed to come from its very core. Its fur bristled and it transformed before her eyes. No longer a small silver pup, it grew into a magnificent wolf, its eyes glowing like molten gold. Leora stumbled back, awe and fear warring within her. The wolf stepped closer, and she could feel the power radiating from it. Its gaze held her not with malice but with something deeper, a recognition, a claim. Her knees weakened. Who are you?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. The wolf tilted its head, and in her mind words formed, not spoken aloud but felt, like a current running through her thoughts. "I am sent for you. I am his eyes, his will. You are the one he seeks, the true mate." Leora's mind reeled. She had heard stories of true mates, of souls linked by fate, of kings who could not find peace until their counterpart appeared. But this was real, right here, right now. "Why me?" she breathed. "Because your heart is unbroken, your soul is untouched by fear. You carry the gift needed to end the curse that threatens all of Eldrath." The wind picked up, swirling the mist around her. Leaves and petals danced in the air as if the forest itself had heard the proclamation. Leora clutched the wolf's fur, grounding herself. Her life had been simple, quiet, predictable. She had never asked for adventure, for prophecy, for kings or power. And yet, here it was, pressing into her chest like the wolf itself. The wolf's gaze softened, almost human in its intensity. She felt it not just as an animal but as a messenger of something greater, something inevitable. A sudden roar shattered the moment. It came from deep in the forest, distant but filled with anger and hunger. Leora froze, heart thundering. The wolf growled, low and warning, and stepped protectively in front of her. Shadows moved among the trees, figures cloaked in darkness, advancing with intent. They were not human, not entirely. Their forms shifted with the mist, flickering between shapes, between realities. Leora's breath caught in her throat. "Run," the wolf's voice whispered in her mind, "or face what the shadows bring, but remember, I will not leave you." Instinct overrode fear. Leora ran, following the wolf, who led her through hidden paths she had never known existed. The mist parted before them as if bowing to their passage. Yet the shadows pursued, flickering and snarling, testing her courage at every turn. She ran faster, lungs burning, mind racing. She had never fought, never faced monsters or magic, yet now she found a strength she did not know existed. The wolf stayed by her side, guiding, protecting, whispering words of courage that only she could hear. Finally, they reached the edge of the forest. The mist thinned, revealing the village she had known all her life, small and quiet, unaware of the destiny passing through its borders. The wolf paused, looking at her with golden eyes that held the weight of kings and the longing of centuries. "Rest now," it said. "The journey has only begun. He watches and he waits, but the night is not over." Leora sank to her knees, clutching the wolf's fur as tears of exhaustion and wonder slid down her cheeks. The world she had known was gone. The forest, the pup, the shadows, they had opened a door she could never close. And in the deepest corner of her heart, a question burned brighter than fear or doubt. Who was the Alpha King? And why had he sent a wolf to find her? The mist swirled one last time around the circle of stones, silver and alive, whispering promises of power, danger, and love. Leora shivered, feeling the pull of a fate she could neither deny nor escape. Somewhere in the distance, over the hills and through the ancient trees, a figure watched. Tall, dark, and commanding, his presence filled the land with authority and sorrow. King Kale felt the connection as surely as Leora did, though they had not yet met. The pup had found her. The true mate was awake, and for the first time in centuries the Alpha King hoped. The wolf nuzzled Leora's hand, golden eyes softening as if to say, "Sleep now, for tomorrow the journey begins, and the shadows are waiting." Leora lay back against the cool earth, cradling the wolf beside her. The forest hummed softly, alive with the magic that only those destined for greatness could feel. Her heart still raced, her mind still spun with questions, but for the first time she felt a strange, thrilling certainty. Her life was no longer her own. Fate had claimed her, and there was no turning back. The moon rose higher, casting silver light over the misty forest. And somewhere, just beyond the reach of vision, the Alpha King's eyes burned with longing and purpose. The hunt had begun, and Leora was at the center of it. The morning sun barely pierced the thick mist as Leora stirred, the wolf curled at her side. She blinked against the silver light filtering through the trees, still struggling to understand the strange events of the previous night. The forest was quiet now, but the sense of being watched lingered like a shadow on her shoulders. The wolf nudged her gently, golden eyes steady and knowing. Leora reached out, stroking its soft fur. Its presence was comforting, yet it carried a quiet insistence. The creature wanted her to move forward, deeper into the forest, toward a destiny she did not yet understand. Leora's heart pounded both with fear and curiosity. Her life had been simple, quiet, and safe, but she knew now that safety was gone. Something important waited ahead, something that called to her very soul. And the wolf, no, not just a wolf, was the key. "All right," she whispered, rising to her feet. She felt a tremor of energy run through her veins as she followed the creature. Every step seemed heavier than the last, yet she felt a pull in her chest, guiding her forward. It was not just curiosity, it was destiny. The forest around her changed as they walked. The mist thickened, curling around ancient trunks and roots that seemed almost alive. Strange lights flickered among the leaves, as if the air itself carried hidden messages. Leora had never noticed such things before. The forest she had known all her life had become strange, beautiful, and dangerous all at once. The wolf led her to a narrow path she did not recognize, one winding upward into a hill that hummed with silent energy. Along the path, shadows moved just beyond her vision. She could not see them clearly, but she felt their presence, sharp and restless. The pup, now walking beside her in its smaller form, whined softly as if warning her. "Are they following us?" Leora whispered. She swallowed hard, trying to steady her shaking hands. The wolf paused, looking back at her. Its eyes glowed with reassurance. Then it shifted back into its small pup form and darted ahead. Leora followed, running when the path became steep and rocky. After what felt like hours, they reached a clearing atop the hill. The mist parted slightly, revealing a ring of stones older than memory. Moss covered them, and the carvings on their surfaces were faint, but faint traces of magic lingered, humming softly beneath her feet. The wolf ran into the circle, circling and leaping as if celebrating. Its golden eyes caught the sunlight, reflecting sparks of warmth and warning alike. Leora watched, breathless. She did not know why she felt the pull, but her soul seemed drawn to the place as if it recognized something long forgotten. Suddenly, a voice echoed through the clearing, not loud, not spoken, but carried into her mind, soft and steady. "Step forward, Leora, and see who you are meant to become." Leora froze, staring at the empty clearing. The voice was strange yet familiar, commanding yet gentle. Her pulse quickened. She had never heard such a sound, yet it spoke directly to her heart. "Who are you?" she whispered, her voice trembling. The pup barked softly, and in that moment Leora realized it was more than an animal. It was a guide, a messenger sent for her by someone powerful, someone who had watched her from afar, studying her, waiting for the right moment to call her forth. "Show me," she whispered, and stepped into the stone circle. The air shifted, humming with energy. Leora felt a tingling warmth spreading from her feet to her chest. Shapes flickered at the edges of the clearing, figures formed of shadow and mist, moving silently, testing her courage. She felt their eyes on her, piercing and demanding. "Stay close," she murmured to the pup. The creature transformed again, this time into the majestic wolf, golden eyes fixed on her. Leora could feel its power, not as a threat, but as protection. She reached out and placed a hand on its fur, grounding herself. Then the shadows moved closer. Figures shaped like men and wolves, twisted and dark, came from the mist. Their presence pressed on her chest, heavy and cold. Leora's heart hammered in fear, but she did not run. She could feel a strange energy within her, a spark of strength that had been asleep for years. "Who are you?" she demanded, voice rising despite her trembling. The shadows paused. One figure stepped forward, taller than the rest, cloaked in darkness that seemed to swallow the light. Its eyes glowed faintly, filled with hunger and curiosity. "You are not meant to be here alone," the voice whispered in her mind. "But you have power. You can face us if you choose." Leora's hands shook, but she nodded. She did not know why, but she felt the truth in the words. Fear was there, but it was tempered by something deeper: courage, determination, and a strange trust in the wolf at her side. The shadows hissed, moving closer, testing her resolve. Leora drew in a deep breath, feeling the energy within her rise. Her fingers tingled, and the air around her seemed to respond to her heartbeat. Leaves fluttered, wind shifted, and the shadows halted. The wolf stepped forward, low growl vibrating in its chest. Leora felt its strength, and she realized she could share it. She extended her hands, and a faint silver light emanated from her palms, weaving into the mist, pushing the shadows back. The figures recoiled, disappearing into the air with a final hiss, leaving Leora alone in the clearing, trembling but alive. The wolf transformed back into the pup, curling at her feet and nuzzling her hand. You're amazing," she whispered, eyes wide. "I didn't know I could do that." The pup whined softly, almost as if answering her. Leora felt a warmth spread in her chest, a mixture of awe, fear, and wonder. Something inside her had awakened, something that had been waiting all her life. She sat down, pulling the pup into her lap, and took a moment to catch her breath. The forest around her was silent again, but it no longer felt threatening. It hummed with life, magic, and a quiet anticipation. Then, from the distance, a sound broke the stillness, a howl, deep and mournful, echoing across the hills. Leora's heart jumped. The wolf at her side growled, ears twitching, and leapt forward, transforming once more into its majestic golden-eyed form. The howl came again, closer this time, filled with longing, authority, and sorrow. Leora realized it was not a threat, it was a call. Something powerful was near, waiting. The wolf turned to her, eyes steady. In her mind, words formed once again. "He watches, Leora, the one who sent me. He waits for you, but you must be ready. The path ahead is dangerous and full of choice." Choice. The word echoed in her mind. Leora had always believed her life was set, simple and predictable. Now she understood it had never been hers to choose. The forest, the pup, the shadows, they were all part of a larger design, a destiny she could not escape. A sudden movement in the mist made her gasp. Figures cloaked in shadow emerged again, moving toward the circle. Leora's pulse quickened. The wolf growled, stepping between her and the intruders, golden eyes blazing. Leora felt fear, but also determination. She raised her hands instinctively, letting the silver light flow through her once more. The shadows recoiled, hesitating at the sudden burst of energy. "You will not stop me," she whispered, more to herself than them. "I will face whatever comes. I will protect this forest and myself." The shadows retreated, vanishing into the mist, leaving only silence. Leora sank to the ground, her chest heaving, but a small smile touched her lips. She had faced them, survived, and awakened something inside herself she never knew existed. The wolf shifted back into its pup form, curling against her chest. Leora stroked its fur, whispering, "Thank you for finding me, for protecting me. But who is he? Who is the one who sent you?" The pup barked softly, then sat up and looked toward the horizon. Leora followed its gaze. Far in the distance, atop a hill shrouded in mist, a figure stood. Tall, dark, commanding, with eyes that seemed to pierce the world itself. Even from so far away, Leora felt the weight of his presence. Her chest tightened, a strange mixture of fear and longing filling her heart. The figure moved slightly, then vanished behind the mist. And though she could not see him clearly, she knew, deep in her bones, that this was the Alpha King, the one who had sent the pup to find her, the one whose life was now inexplicably tied to hers. Leora shivered. The forest seemed alive around her, whispering secrets she could not yet understand. The pup nuzzled her hand, as if sensing her thoughts, and let out a soft, comforting whine. The path ahead was unknown, full of danger, mystery, and power. Yet one thing was certain: she would not walk it alone. The pup, the forest, and the presence of a king she had never met had claimed her life, her fate, and her heart. And somewhere unseen, the Alpha King watched, hoping she was ready for what was to come. The forest was quieter than ever, though the mist swirled around Leora like a living thing. She woke to the pup curled against her chest, its tiny warmth grounding her in a world that had grown strange and full of danger overnight. The memory of shadows, whispers, and the distant figure of the Alpha King filled her mind, yet her heart carried a new determination. She stood, brushing the dew from her clothes, and looked toward the hilltop where the figure had vanished the day before. The sun was still hidden behind heavy clouds, casting the forest in shades of silver and gray. Leora felt a pull in her chest, stronger now, as if the earth itself was urging her forward. The pup leapt from her lap and ran ahead, bounding easily over roots and stones. Leora followed, her own steps hesitant but resolute. She had survived the shadows once, and though fear still lingered, she felt the stirrings of something powerful inside her. The silver light that had flowed through her hands before was awakening again, and she did not fully understand it, but she knew she would need it. Hours passed as they walked. The mist seemed to thin, revealing shapes in the distance, broken statues, half buried in moss and ivy, remnants of a time long forgotten. Leora's fingers brushed over the cold stone, tracing lines and patterns that seemed almost alive. The pup barked softly, nudging her forward, and she felt the weight of expectation settle on her shoulders. It was in one of these ruined courtyards that she first felt it, the presence of the Alpha King. Not close, not yet, but near enough that her breath caught. The air vibrated with power, commanding and raw. Leora's pulse quickened. She did not see him, yet she knew he was watching, testing her from afar. The pup transformed once more, this time into a magnificent wolf, golden eyes glowing. Leora instinctively raised her hands, letting the faint silver light flow from her palms. The wolf circled her, protective and proud, as if affirming her courage. Suddenly, the mist shifted violently. Shadowy figures, taller and more menacing than before, emerged from the edges of the ruins. Their forms flickered like smoke, and their eyes glowed red. Leora's heart pounded. These were no ordinary creatures. They were the darkness that had followed her from the forest, testing her strength, testing her resolve. The wolf leapt forward, growling deep and low. Leora felt a rush of energy, almost instinctive. She raised her hands, letting the silver light surge stronger than before. The shadows recoiled, hissed, and faltered. Leora realized she could control this power, if only she trusted herself. "Stay behind me," she whispered to the wolf, though she felt it was beside her in both body and spirit. The shadows attacked, swirling toward her like living smoke. Leora's fear surged, but she steadied her breathing, focusing on the warmth in her chest, the pulse of life around her. Her hands glowed with light that danced across the stones and into the mist, pushing the darkness back step by step. And then it stopped. The shadows vanished as suddenly as they had appeared, leaving the clearing empty and silent. Leora sank to her knees, chest heaving, hands trembling. The wolf shifted back into its smaller form, nuzzling her hand. "You're safe for now," she whispered. But even as she said it, she felt it, the pull of something greater. The Alpha King was near, and she could feel the gravity of his presence in her very bones. The pup barked softly, then ran ahead, leading her to a narrow path through the ruins. Leora followed, her heart caught between fear and curiosity. The path wound deeper into the forest, overgrown and wild, yet somehow familiar. Every step seemed to awaken something within her, a spark of energy, a sense of purpose. She came to a small glade, where a crystal-clear stream reflected the dim light of the sky. Kneeling by the water, the pup lapped at the surface, golden eyes bright. Leora knelt beside it, dipping her hands into the cool water. She felt the silver light hum through her fingers, connecting to the flow of the stream, the life around her, and even the tiny creatures that scurried through the undergrowth. "This power, it's mine," she whispered. She had felt it before fleetingly, but now it surged stronger. She could sense the life force of everything around her, the plants, the animals, the wind. And somehow it was linked to the Alpha King. The wolf padded closer, sitting beside her. Its gaze held a wisdom far beyond any normal creature, and Leora felt her chest tighten. She had not met him yet, and already she felt a connection, something older, stronger, and deeper than she could name. A rustle in the trees made her freeze. A figure emerged, cloaked and tall, walking with deliberate grace. Leora's heart stopped. This was him, the Alpha King. Kale's presence was overwhelming, commanding and powerful, yet tempered by a strange sorrow. His eyes, sharp and golden, met hers, and in that instant the world fell away. Leora felt the pull of destiny like a current, strong and unyielding, flowing through her very soul. "You have awakened," Kale said, voice deep and steady, carrying the weight of authority and longing. I didn't mean to," Leora whispered, clutching the pup to her chest. "I don't understand." Kale took a step closer, yet he did not advance threateningly. Instead, he seemed measured, careful, aware of the fragile balance between power and trust. "You are meant for this," he said. "Meant for me and for what is coming, but first you must learn control. You must face trials and survive." Leora's chest tightened. Trials, power, fate, all words that felt too large for her, too immense. Yet beneath the fear, a thrill ran through her veins. She had survived shadows before, and she had felt power stir within her. Perhaps she could rise to this challenge. "The wolf, no," the pup growled softly, moving between them. Kale's gaze softened slightly as he looked at it. "Good," he murmured. "You are not alone. It will guide you as I do from afar until the time is right." Leora felt the pull stronger than ever now, the invisible thread that connected her to Kale. She could not explain it, and yet it was undeniable. Her heart beat faster, her breath quickened, and the forest seemed to hold its breath along with her. "Show me," she said, finding strength in her voice. "Show me what I must do." Kale's eyes narrowed slightly, thoughtful. "The trials are not simple. They will test your courage, your heart, and your mind. They will force you to face fears you have never known. And only then will you understand the bond between us, and the role you play in Eldrath's fate." Before she could respond, a new movement in the trees caught her eye. Shadows, darker and faster than before, slithered between the trunks, moving toward the glade. Leora's breath caught. She could feel their malice, their intent. "Prepare yourself," Kale's voice echoed, not in the air but in her mind, clear and commanding. "Do not falter. Remember your strength. Remember your gift. I am watching always." The shadows attacked, faster and more aggressive than before. Leora's hands glowed with silver light, flowing into the stream, into the trees, into the very earth beneath her feet. The energy responded to her will, shaping and bending around her like a living shield. The wolf leapt forward, teeth bared, golden eyes blazing. Together, Leora and the wolf pushed back the darkness, a force of life against malice. Her heart pounded, her muscles burned, yet she did not falter. She could feel the bond with Kale strengthening, guiding her, teaching her through instinct and energy. After what felt like hours, the shadows retreated, vanishing into the forest with a hiss. Leora sank to the ground, exhausted but exhilarated. She had faced them again, and this time she felt more certain of her power, her role, and her connection to the Alpha King. Kale's presence lingered, unseen but palpable. Leora felt his eyes on her, weighing her strength and courage, and for the first time she understood a fraction of the weight he carried. He was not just a king, he was a protector, a fighter, a man burdened by power and prophecy, waiting for the one who could match him. The wolf returned to its small form, curling against her chest. Leora stroked its fur, whispering, "I'm ready, I think, but will I be enough?" The pup barked softly, nuzzling her hand as if answering. Leora took a deep breath, the silver light fading but the warmth in her chest remaining. She knew the path ahead would be filled with danger, tests, and trials she could not yet imagine. But she also knew something else: she was no longer alone. And somewhere beyond the mist, in the shadows of the forest, Kale watched, hope and longing mixed with caution. The true mate had awakened, and the journey had only begun. The mist lay heavy over the forest, thick and silver like a living blanket. Leora's eyes fluttered open to the faint light of dawn, and the wolf pup stirred beside her, stretching its small legs before curling back against her chest. The forest was quiet, too quiet, and a shiver ran down her spine. Something powerful was moving, something darker than the shadows she had faced before. She rose, brushing herself off, feeling the faint pulse of silver energy in her hands. It was stronger now, flowing more naturally, as if the forest itself responded to her presence. The pup barked softly, then darted ahead, golden eyes scanning the misty path. Leora followed, heart pounding, knowing the final trial awaited her. The path wound deeper into the forest, into a valley she had never seen. Trees towered like silent guards, their branches twisted and heavy, and the mist hung thick over the ground. Shapes moved at the edges of her vision, dark figures watching, waiting. Leora's fingers tingled with silver energy as she reached out instinctively. The forest seemed alive, responding to her heartbeat, the rhythm of her pulse merging with its own. The pup transformed into the majestic wolf, its golden eyes fixed on her. Leora felt its power flow into her, grounding her, reminding her she was not alone. She knelt for a moment, closing her eyes and breathing deeply, letting the energy fill her. "You are ready," the Alpha King's voice echoed in her mind, steady and commanding. "But this trial will test everything: your courage, your heart, your strength. And I will be with you when the time is right." Leora swallowed, feeling both fear and determination. She had survived shadows, controlled the silver light, and faced the unknown. But this was different. The darkness she felt now was ancient, relentless, and hungry. Suddenly the mist shifted violently, and shapes emerged, taller, faster, and more dangerous than anything before. Shadow beasts, their forms shifting and flickering, advanced with glowing red eyes. Their presence pressed on her chest, cold and heavy. The wolf growled, leaping forward, golden eyes blazing. Leora raised her hands, silver light flowing in arcs and sparks, connecting to the life force around her: the trees, the stream, the wind. She felt her power surge, shaping and bending the mist, pushing the shadows back step by step. Fear still lingered, but it was tempered by the courage growing within her. "You will not win," she whispered, more to herself than them. "I will not let you." The shadow beasts lunged, but Leora was ready. Her energy formed a shield around her, silver and bright, and the wolves, teeth and claws, could not touch her. She moved through the mist, pushing and pulling, guiding her power with instinct and determination. Each movement, each spark of light made her stronger, more certain. Then a new presence joined the battlefield. Kale emerged from the mist, towering and fierce, eyes glowing like molten gold. His voice rang through the forest, a command and a promise: "Leora." The shadows faltered at his arrival, sensing the Alpha King's power. Leora felt it too, his presence flowing into her, not as fear but as strength. Together they were a force unmatched. The bond between them, invisible yet unbreakable, flowed through the forest, weaving light into the shadows. Kale stepped beside her, not too close, but near enough that their energy mingled. "Trust yourself," he said. "Trust what you are becoming." I am trying," Leora whispered. eyes blazing with determination. The shadow beasts attacked again, more aggressive than before. Leora raised her hands, silver light spinning faster, weaving into the forest itself. Kale moved with her, his own energy radiating like fire and gold, striking at the darkness. The battle was fierce, a storm of light and shadow, energy and instinct. Leora's heart raced, but she did not falter. The bond with Kale strengthened with each attack, each challenge. She could feel his guidance, his caution, and his trust, and it gave her courage she had never known. The shadows shrieked, twisting and writhing, but the two of them were unstoppable. Finally, the shadows recoiled, hissing and fading into the mist. Leora sank to her knees, exhausted but exhilarated. Her hands glowed faintly, silver sparks drifting into the air, and the forest seemed to breathe around her, alive and calm. Kale stepped forward, placing a hand gently on her shoulder. His golden eyes met hers, filled with pride and longing. "You have done well," he said softly. "Stronger than I imagined, stronger than even the prophecy claimed." Leora looked up at him, chest heaving, and felt a warmth in her heart she could not name. I could not have done it without you," she whispered. "No," Kale replied, voice deep and steady. "You did this. You were always meant for this. I only guided you." For a moment, silence settled over them. The mist curled around their feet, the forest humming softly, alive with the energy of victory and transformation. Leora's heart still raced, but it was no longer fear. It was hope, wonder, and a new understanding of the power she carried. The wolf pup, now small and calm again, curled at her feet. It lifted its head, golden eyes flicking toward the horizon as if sensing something beyond their victory. Leora followed its gaze. In the distance, across the forest, shapes began to move, less dark, less threatening, but undeniable. Other forces were awakening, drawn by the surge of energy, by the bond between her and Kale. The journey was not over, and the trials had not ended. Kale's hand tightened slightly on her shoulder, grounding her. "Rest now," he said. "We face many things ahead, but this moment, this victory, it is yours, and I am with you." Leora closed her eyes, feeling the warmth of his presence, the pulse of the forest, and the calm of the pup at her side. She felt a strength she had never known, a courage that would carry her forward into whatever awaited. She had faced shadows, learned control, and discovered power she could never have imagined. And most importantly, she had discovered the bond, the invisible, unbreakable connection with the Alpha King. As the sun rose higher, silver light spilled across the misty valley, glimmering off the leaves and stones. Leora felt it in her chest, a promise of what was possible, a reminder of the destiny she had embraced. She was no longer the quiet healer's apprentice. She was something more, something powerful, and something linked to a king whose heart and soul were bound to hers. Kale stepped back slightly, giving her space, but his eyes never left hers. "The world will test us still," he said softly. "Enemies will come, shadows will rise. But together we are unstoppable." The pup barked, tiny and fierce, as if agreeing. Leora smiled, brushing its silver fur. The forest seemed to hum with anticipation, alive with the energy of destiny, magic, and love yet unspoken. And then in the quiet, a whisper drifted on the wind. Not spoken aloud, but carried in the rustling of leaves, the shift of the mist, and the pulse of the silver light. "The true mate has awakened, but greater shadows are coming. The bond will be tested, and only through courage and trust will Eldrath survive." Leora felt the words settle in her heart. She did not yet understand the full meaning, but she knew one thing clearly. She was ready to face it. The Alpha King was beside her, the bond between them stronger than fear or doubt, and the forest alive with the magic that had chosen her. She looked up at Kale, golden eyes steady, and felt a courage that was no longer fragile. "I'm ready," she whispered. Kale's lips curved in a small, rare smile, the first she had ever seen from him that carried warmth rather than command. "Then we begin together," he said. The mist swirled around them, silver and alive. carrying the promise of adventure, power, and love yet to be fully realized. Leora hugged the pup, who barked softly in approval, then turned to face the forest ahead. Whatever awaited, she would not face it alone. And somewhere beyond the reach of the trees, unseen and silent, enemies stirred, sensing the surge of power and the bond between her and the Alpha King. The journey was far from over, but for the first time, Leora felt ready for whatever came next. The sun rose fully now, spilling golden light across the valley. The shadows had been pushed back, the forest hummed with energy, and the bond between the true mate and the Alpha King had been forged in the trials of darkness and courage. But as they walked forward, side by side, Leora could feel the pull of unseen forces, whispering from the far reaches of Eldrath. Their adventure had only begun.